and founder of Illustrious Consulting. Really honored to be here. I'm just going to go like this. Just some of the things that our clients say about us and what we do is that we are really skilled at reflecting the best thinking in their organization and putting a map on the wall and really surfacing the best thinkers, connecting that bright line throughout the leadership of the teams. The other thing that we do really well is that we see the best in everyone we work with. We have a really deep-seated belief in human potential. And that means that we call forth everyone we work with to become what we call a visionary leader, stepping into that future creative or rock star or innovator that they're becoming. We really address that future self, not the person you are now, but we're really talking to that person that you are going to be in the future. Next slide. We try, in a perfect world, it doesn't work this way every time, but we try to break our consulting process down into 4 buckets or categories. The first is vision. We encourage our clients to have a really clear and effective business map. That means they have a really great vision statement, how they view themselves, how they see the world around them in 3 to 5 years. They have a real clear mission statement. Everybody is oriented and aligned around this vision and mission and map. And only then can we go talk about culture and whether you have the right people in the right seats. And we do assessments and whether it's surveys or interviews and take a measurement of the current culture and then talk about the steps that need to be taken to create that future culture, developing a deck or a credo or a charter. And then there's the story that you're telling as a team. You've got to be on the same page with the story you're telling. And that could be internal messaging or marketing. It could be how that internal messaging maps to the external marketing touch points. We use Donald Miller's story brand framework a lot. Anybody familiar with that? Yeah, we encourage our clients to really think about themselves not as the hero, but focus on their client as the protagonist, their customer as the protagonist, and how they can show up as their guide or oracle or sidekick or partner on the yellow road holding their hand down on that path to their outcomes and fulfilling their needs. And then finally, strategy. How are we able to do the things that we need to do? We're agnostic as far as frameworks we work with, whether it's traction or KPIs or OKRs, you name it. We can come in and help you stay accountable to your annual strategic plan and then all the way down to your quarterly strategic plan. Next slide. So I figured the best way to talk about this is to show you what it's like to work. We're a very visual organization to work with. We've got a lot of illustrators and graphic facilitators on our team. So showing you is probably the best way to tell that story. Here's one of the assets that we delivered to a client of ours, a global AV company. I think if you think like NASA mission control, all the screens on the wall where you've got the rocket trajectory and the moon landing and the launch pad, they work with the software and the hardware to kind of make those installations happen. So this was a large global company, and they needed a customer experience journey. You can see in the red here, stage 6 of their journey was a complete disaster. The sales team was being accused of over-promising, and the operations team was being accused of under-delivering. And I'm sure that's a familiar story, not just to them, because we hear it a lot. Sales and ops were at an impasse. Next slide. In addition to this, we got to that by getting a mural, a virtual whiteboard tool, and putting stickies on the wall, and committing to some radical honesty about what was happening in all the departments and divisions. So the executive team, the C-suite, gathered, and we identified not only the 3 persona in their pipeline, but the one primary persona that we needed to get this right for. And that was this juggling job, the white-collar IT manager, the guy who's managing cables and upgrades and buildings and people. That's the guy, that's the decision maker we needed to get it right for. So that's the person whose hand we held as we walked down this journey and mapped this expressive service model. Next slide. In addition to that, they were given a graphic recording. Our illustrator was in the room for all of the sessions, and we drew what we were talking about in all of these meetings. You can see in stage 6, the ground is crumbling from beneath his feet. He's dropping F-bombs. He's not happy. right? So in addition to the graphic record, they were given an urgent important matrix and an impact effort matrix to identify those top 3 things that they need to do that quarter to fix this journey for Juggling John. Go ahead, next slide. And they gave us a glowing testimonial. They were able to do that work. They were able to make those changes as an executive team. Now, we love testimonials like this one. That's fantastic. But what's even better, next slide, is when our clients ask us to come back, which they did. They needed OKRs done. They needed to whittle down what they call, well, they were calling must-win battles, but there were 12 of them. Nobody can remember 12 must-win battles every 90 days. So we got it down to 3 primary objectives in the organization that everybody in the organization could remember and lean into every 90 days through using OKRs. Next slide. And then in addition to the consulting and the facilitation that we do, the end of last year, I launched an executive coaching program, which kind of bundles together all the books I've written in courses and gives our clients access to one-on-one coaching with me and my business team, as well as group coaching calls with the other coaching clients. So that 3 arms of the business right now is kind of what we're doing: consulting, facilitation, and coaching. Next slide. And that's the end of my presentation.
Yeah.
Questions.
Great, Brandon. We'll go right into questions. Give them a round of applause. Questions? Andy.
What size organizations are you typically running?
So typically, if we're working on something like an OKR, service model blueprint, or customer experience journeys, those are going to be larger organizations. I say around probably 300 employees, but we work directly with the C-suite, so it's going to be between 7 to 10 people. Yeah. I should say, clarify, the coaching program has proved to be something that is really great for entrepreneurs and small business owners. In that cohort, we really have the people who have, like, it's either only them and they're just starting to scale their team, or they've got like a couple contractors and maybe 1 full-time employee. So the coaching program is for the kind of smaller entrepreneurs and the high-level consulting. I should say the enterprise consulting is for larger organizations. Yeah.
So how do you describe the quantified claims? So you solved Juggling John, that IT manager is happy, I guess satisfaction goes up. Are there other claims you're driving, like faster turnaround time, faster time to close sales, increased sales, or reduced bottom line? What other claims do you provide?
Yeah, so I'll use that story as an example. That client right there, the sales team was promising features that maybe weren't even going to roll out till July, right? And so the delivery team would come on site and they would say, yeah, we're excited about this feature. And they were looking at each other going, we don't even know what we're talking about, right? And at the same time, the delivery team was forgetting the right cables when they were going to an install. And they were having to come back multiple times to service the client. It just was not, this was sometimes the first time the client saw somebody in a branded shirt, like saw a representative of the company come in, and it was just a poor user experience. So getting that stuff fixed was the ultimate. So yeah, whether it's speed or efficiency, that's one metric. Their communication went up, the speed of communication went up. They had weekly meetings around these issues to get them handled, and let's say that their internal kind of net promoter score internally, all of that, the internal metrics they were using, all of that stuff started to come up as well. Yeah. Does that answer your question? Kind of. Do you have
I'll be great. So net promoter score going up and speed of delivery going up leads to what? Does that mean that NASA has less failed missions? Or does that mean they reorder from that company in the future?
For the client, yeah, it means they can put more clients in the pipeline. That's the number that I would look at, right? And I would hope that NASA can do what they're doing because my client is able to do their job better. But for my sake, I hope my client, right, is able to get more future clients in their pipeline. And they can do that by not having to go back and plug in a different cable every week, right? That's the goal.
What's your interview and discovery process? Who do you interview? Do you interview the C-suite, their employees, and their clients?
Primarily, I'd say our point of contact within the organizations sometimes it's a CEO, but rarely. It's usually a COO or a VP of something, right? Who has been tasked with, right? They've got to report to the CEO about something that's happening in the organization or how they're running the organization. And they've got a team to lead. So they've got to kind of communicate up and down. And that's our client that we are typically approached through discovery to, go through a series of questions and kind of take an assessment of where the organization's at. And it usually ends up with us working directly with the CEO or the entire C-suite. But initial discovery, initial like pain point, reaching out, Googling, word of mouth, that's usually somebody who is VP or director. Does that answer your question? Okay. Yeah.
So you guys do these consulting, design thinking, like sessions in your role. What would you say?
Now we do.
Now you do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember the days we used to fly around the world and, do them, but now it's,
Yeah.
now it's good.
So the visual aspect of this, I'm assuming that's one of the big pieces here, Illustrious. What would you say is the benefit of having or what separates your visuals from maybe another consulting company? And why would you say that those kind of hand illustrations make more sense to folks going forward?
Yeah, there are arguments for visual thinking, that we are able to process and retain, visual information 20,000 times faster than written or verbal communication. I think that's why it's so important to me that we work visually, that we are drawing, that we are talking in metaphor, that we are using visual communication and training the trainer to use visual communication inside the organization so that all of that communication gets sped up and is more effective once we leave. I don't want to just be the fun team that comes in and draws pictures and then leave, and then they've got the same problems again, right? I want them to use design thinking, visual thinking within the org. I think that you asked a question about what makes us, what's a differentiator, right? I would say that most of the big four consultants don't typically lean on the visuals as heavily. They'll deliver you a PowerPoint or a deck and say, here's your visual summary, right? To me, that's not really visual thinking. That's not really a visual communication tool. We have more in common with organizations like the Grove or in San Francisco or Voltage Control in Austin, or even some of the smaller ones like Lizard Brain in DC. Like we have more in common with the people who are visual consultancies, and this is what they do. So that's kind of how I would position us in the market. Does that answer your question?
It does, yeah. I'm actually with IBM Consulting, so
Okay.
we do all the design thinking stuff, but it looks nowhere near as good as this.
Oh,
And I can imagine that as you, we'll do these consulting engagements and then leave, and then God knows nothing is implemented.
Yeah.
Right. I could imagine some visual reminder would be easier to for the team to implement after you're gone. So
yeah, and onboarding them to that visual storytelling skill, right? Giving them the understanding that there's a basic visual vocabulary of a square and a triangle and a circle, and out of that you can build a house or there's all kinds of really basic ways they can draw on a Post-it or a napkin and communicate their ideas quickly, because that's the idea, is that once we leave as consultants, they can communicate their ideas, they can pitch their ideas quickly to leadership or sell their ideas to the team, right? And that implementation speed of adoption stays, and that's what I believe visual thinking business. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Jordan. Curious, what's the percentage of businesses that come to you in sort of like a stopgap moment of like, oh, we need help, versus like, okay, we're building this thing, we foresee there'll be problems, i.e. you get to meet Juggling John or Juggling Joan prior to them having a nervous breakdown.
Yeah. That's probably half and half. There are a lot of people who can see the writing on the wall, and it goes back to it being the COO or the VP of something. They're typically the person who are like, some things about, maybe there was a merger that just happened and, they're experiencing like, we have these really great 3 core values in place, but now the company we just bought has 5 core values and our team of now 100 is trying to live all 8, and that's not gonna work, right? Something's breaking down. So they kind of see the writing on the wall and can get in front of that sometimes. But yeah, sometimes we have people come to us in crisis. And usually that's for last minute workshop designs or instructional designs involving mural now, but it's like, we need to be trained on how to deliver this to our clients. Come in quickly and train us how to do this. So that's when we come in and put out. Yeah.
I just have a quick question. When it comes to finding solutions for your clients, when the path is already set for them, do you partner with other firms that can deliver those solutions for you or for the client?
Sometimes. At my former consultancy, right, I worked at an innovation consultancy in Florida for 5 years before I moved here. Just moved here in December, by the way. And we worked with a couple of vendors who could deliver, let's say, DISC assessments or Barrett value systems or things like that. I mean, it was pretty quickly though that I realized I can deliver DISC assessments. I can get set up as a DISC vendor. I think I would rely on a partner or a vendor if it's something that I didn't have deep experience on. Let's say they came to us wanting traction, right? I'm not a licensed or certified traction coach, right? I might partner with somebody to deliver that engagement. But it's rare. We're not currently doing it now. Yeah. Over here.
Okay, so coming from the coaching side, I find it really interesting that you offer coaching to like maybe startup people like me, but that's very different from your other projects, and I don't necessarily see that as a pipeline to get to.
Right.
So I'm just wondering, like, why do you do both, and what is kind of your big revenue streams that you can do both well? So if I were to come to you to do coaching, would your attention be spent on these big projects?
That's a great question. And so the breakdown would be that coaching is a pretty small piece of the pie. Obviously, the big enterprise contracts are going to be more, right? And the coaching package is typically between $2,500 and $5,000. That's become such a small piece of the pie. But I love coaching. Like, it is something that I will never not do. It's, even a sales call is a coaching call, right? Any time you're interacting, I've got my kind of coaching hat, and it's something I love. So that kind of small, cohort that I have as clients for coaching, I like to think that I give them a lot of attention and will continue to do so. And the tools that we're implementing at the enterprise level, even things like design thinking. I've got people who are coaching clients of mine who are launching coaching companies, and they're asking me, well, how do I use design thinking? Why is that a thing I need to even know about, right? And we look at the double diamond of like definition and discovery and realize, oh, this is something that should be in every engagement I have with a client. It's something that I should be employing on every call that I have. I can build workshops or experiences for my clients based on this process, right, of testing and refining. And I just don't think that the tools of design thinking should be in the hands of the big corporations. I think everybody should have access to them. So it's important for me that those exist in the same ecosystem. Does that answer your question? Okay.
What other questions? Feedback? We're open to that too.
Yeah.
I was curious, like, Jeffrey, thank you.
Thanks.
This is the expression that toddlers kids don't wear shoes. And is there anything in your own organization that you want to turn the mirror on yourself, like use these tools on Illustrious and see where are the gaps in customer experience? So if you could be transparent and if you don't mind sharing, where's the breakdown in your organization you're working on next?
Yeah, for me, because it is such a small team, meaning me and one contractor right now, the breakdown for me or the challenge is in the sales process, right? So it's the managing the pipeline and having a system right now, kind of juggling a system of there's a post-it sheet with stickies on my wall, And then there's a mural with stickies on a picture of like literally a picture of a pipe, like a plumbing pipe. And so I like move them as they go through through the funnel, as well as a spreadsheet, which is like kind of a makeshift CRM. So I being the kind of visual thinker I am, I need to play with these different systems. So as the CEO / salesperson, right, that's the system I struggle with the most. But there have been instances where we have had to take a pause, right, and say, what is it? I call that, what you're describing, I call self-directed value, right? Like, how are we taking our own medicine in an attempt to make us better as an organization, right? So sometimes that just starts with like making a folder in your client folder system with your own name on it, right? And once you do that, then you look at the Illustrious folder and you say, yeah, where are our DISC assessments? We've never deployed the surveys internally. Where's our customer experience journey? Where's our OKRs? What are we focused on over the next 90 days? So that's self-directed value. It's something that we try to regularly check in with. And if we're learning something new, right, some kind of new framework that we're going to launch, obviously we're going to test it internally first to kind of see how it works and how it feels to play with. Does that answer your question?
Thank you. Just the time for one more question from you, Mike.
Okay. I'll make it
good.
quick.
Okay.
Well, anyway, besides showing us the two books you brought, I wonder if in terms of pulling back the curtain a little, besides sharing those, because I'd like to see them,
Okay.
are there other source materials you recommend for pursuing this type of work?
Yeah.
That type of working?
Yeah. One of my mentors and somebody who's become a good friend of mine, his name is David Sibbett, and he's the founder of the Grove in San Francisco. He's got a whole series of books, visual teams, visual meetings, visual leaders. His last book that he wrote with his new wife, Gisela Lending, is a book called Visual Consulting. So it's more insider baseball for people who are leading this kind of work. But if you just want to run visual thinking and visual meetings in your organization, his body of work would be a really great place to start.
What was his name again?
David Sibbett, Sibbet.
Great, thanks. So moving on to our final question
Sure.
here. What can we as a community do for you?
So I guess this kind of goes back, was it Mark?
Mark, right here? Yes.
No, right here. Jeff.
Jeffrey.
Thank you. Thank you.
You messed up his own name already.
Okay. Jeffrey. I'd say this is related to Jeffrey's question, and that is what I'm currently doing to fill my pipeline is a lot of inbound content. I blog a lot, right? Mike said I've got books, I've got some of them here, I write a lot. We're doing a lot of social media and e-newsletter, and I'm trying to kind of fill the funnel that way. But as anybody knows who's done this, and as anybody who's worked in consulting, 99% of the time this comes from word of mouth. It comes from somebody who's worked with you and said, oh my God, you need that? You got to talk to Jordan. I'm going to introduce you to my friend Jordan. So being new to town, I think that it would be really great if you hear one of your colleagues or anybody that you're working with start to talk about the work they're doing in painful metaphor, right? I feel stuck. I feel like I've painted myself into a corner. I don't have a roadmap out. I feel like there's cloud or fog around me. I don't have clarity on it, right? But when they start talking like that, say, I need to introduce you to my friend Jordan. He's got a visual consultancy. He can clear the fog. He can build you a roadmap. He can help you guys get along. And again, being new to town, I think the other thing would be, this is the first time I've spoken to a group in 2 years. It feels really good. And being around people feels really good to me. I know there's other events other than 1 Million Cups. So like networking and plugging into this local scene, even though all of our clients are global and international and we do the work virtually, I still want to feel like I'm plugged into my local region and neighborhood. So any connections you guys can make would be really appreciated.
Yeah, thanks, Warren. Really appreciate that. And welcome to the community. So let's give him a hand for